What should happen to civil partnerships now that gay people have the right to marry? The government has recently closed a consultation considering a number of options, including scrapping them. For our soapbox this week, the human rights activist Peter Tatchell gives us his take on the future of this relatively young institution.
Flowers, chocolate and champagne, the language of love, weddings and civil partnerships. Civil partnerships, introduced in 2005, finally gave legal recognition to lesbian and gay couples. But it wasn't real equality. The ban on same-sex marriage remained until this year. Today, same-sex couples have the option of two forms of official recognition: marriage and civil partnership, whereas opposite-sex couples only have the option of marriage. That's discrimination against heterosexuals. In its public consultation, the government set out three options for the future of civil partnerships: scrapping them and forcing existing civil partners to convert to marriage, stopping new civil partnerships being registered but retaining existing ones, and keeping civil partnerships and opening them to opposite-sex couples, which is the option I've been campaigning for since 2005. Many same-sex and opposite-sex couples don't like the sexist, homophobic history of marriage. They dislike the antiquated language of husband and wife. While marriage is right for some, for others, a civil partnership is more egalitarian and modern. Of the same-sex couples who've already had a civil partnership, many entered into it precisely because it was not marriage. To forcibly convert their civil partnership into a marriage would violate their wishes and the contract they agreed. The evidence from the Netherlands is that since civil partnerships have been open to all, many opposite-sex couples have taken advantage of the opportunity. In fact, today, most Dutch civil partnerships are between opposite-sex couples. Rather than scrapping civil partnerships, we should celebrate and extend them to all. It's simply a matter of equality.
And Peter Tatchell joins us now in the studio. The debate about this, though, Peter Tatchell, as you said, was about equality, and civil partnerships, in a way, were portrayed as a stepping stone to marriage. So why would you want to, in a way, go back to those?
Well, now that we have civil partnerships, now we have many thousands of couples in civil partnerships, I think it'd be wrong to force them to switch to marriage. That wasn't what they agreed when they signed the contract. And since same-sex couples can have the right to civil partnership, why shouldn't heterosexual couples as well? Because after all, David Cameron said that he supported same-sex marriage because he believed in equality.
Yes.
If that's true, the principle should also apply to civil partnerships.
But do you think there is this sort of hierarchy that exists? I mean, David Cameron said he believes that allowing civil partnerships for heterosexuals would undermine the sanctity of marriage and alienate many traditional Tory voters. What do you say to that?
Well, I think civil partnerships and marriages are very similar. You know, civil partnerships are marriage-like. They embody the same principles of love, commitment, loyalty and stability. So I don't see how they're undermining marriage. I actually think they actually strengthen the principle of legal rights and responsibilities, because lots of heterosexual couples are not married, they're cohabiting. If they don't want to get married, they don't agree with the institution of marriage. But if they're given the option of a civil partnership, I think many of them would take that option, and that would give them legal rights and responsibilities, the stability, the legal framework.
Do you think this is a major issue now after the battle for gay marriage, if you like? Is this a fight worth having?
Absolutely, because it's a very important fundamental democratic principle that we should all be equal before the law, that any form of discrimination is wrong. And in the government's own consultation on same-sex marriage, the public were asked the question, should civil partnerships be opened up to opposite-sex couples? 61% said yes, only 24% said no. So that clearly there's a majority public support for allowing heterosexual couples the choice of a civil partnership if they wish.
Alan Duncan, you're in a civil partnership. Do you think straight couples should be able to do the same?
I think the inequality and hence the disadvantage which Peter is referring to as between a civil partnership and a heterosexual couple getting married in a registry office, i.e. the bit without God, is so minuscule and immaterial. This is really dancing on the head of a pin, and I regard it as unnecessary because it's not actually really doing anyone any harm. And there is an argument for saying that all marriages should be consummated, if you like, on a civil basis, and you can add your own religious bit on top of it if you want. And then everyone is equal from the start, and you can stick your religious gloss on it according to your faith.
But, you know, it's not really what you or I think. It's the fact that we know a substantial minority of heterosexual couples would like a civil partnership. If you look at the Netherlands and New Zealand... What's the difference between
that and a registry office?
Well, let me finish.
Yeah.
If you look at New Zealand and the Netherlands, where civil partnerships have been open to everyone, today, the majority of civil partnerships in the Netherlands are between straight couples, and about 10% of all straight couples choose a civil partnership rather than a marriage. It's only 10%, but why shouldn't a 10% minority have the right to choose?
I don't think it's just an anomaly. I mean, isn't that rather than an orchestrated, if you like, policy in that sense? And you say the majority of people of straight couples would go for it, but would they actually, in reality, if they did actually allow them to have civil partnerships, do you think they would be clamouring for it?
I think a sizable minority would, probably 10 to 15%. And it isn't, even if there's just a handful, the principle in a democracy is that we should all be equal before the law. You know, we wouldn't be having this debate if the law was discriminating against black or Jewish people. It's just because it's about gender and sexuality that people somehow think there's some kind of, you know, we can get away with it. I don't agree. Democracy means equality before the law. We've got civil partnerships. Let's open them up to everyone.
All right. Thank you very much. Very, very quickly.
But this is the campaign was about equality, and if civil partnerships are good enough for same-sex couples, my personal view is why aren't they good enough for heterosexual couples? You shouldn't discriminate against heterosexual couples in that way in any way. So if it's about equality, let's have equality for everyone.
Well, you've convinced Jim Murphy. Thank you very much.
Was already convinced. Oh yes, you're right. Sorry.
On the programme.
Sorry, I was a swinging vote.